My name is Steph Aquarone and I'm a technology entrepreneur, which is a very grand sounding title for what really just means dog's body, especially at the early stages of a business. Droplet is a mobile money app that you use to load money onto your phone, and then you can send and receive payments to other people, pay for things in shops completely for free. We're a team of 10 based in Birmingham, and we've got the grand aim of changing the way the world uses money. Droplet's story, I think, is probably typical of quite a few startups, particularly in the technology sector, which is that some pair of chumps have an idea and then try and make it happen. And in our case with Droplet, those two chumps were me and my friend Will. And we were sitting in a coffee shop in Birmingham talking about all the things that we thought the web hadn't yet transformed, and decided that banking and finance was quite ripe for disruption. And our first step was really to see if people would like the idea of using a phone to make payments. So we had to do what a lot of, again, tech companies call a minimum viable product. Can I please buy these things? Can I pay with my telephone? Which really means building something that's enough to test out an idea. A really simple thing, but in our case had to be super secure.
Perfect, lovely. Would you like your receipt for that, darling?
Yes, please.
Sure.
So we did that in Birmingham with a beta, like a pilot. And we let people use the app. We had about 50 merchants by the time we got going who were willing to let people pay in store with Droplet. And so we learnt really all about what customers liked, what motivated merchants, and really started to understand and unpick all the different things that were going to be important to our business. And when we started to do that, we were about a year into our business, so we'd had to put in our own time, and we're still putting in our own time for free. We had to put in a bit of our own money to get the minimum viable product out of the door. And then when we started to have a kind of product that we thought was going to work, then we started to seek investment. And we were very lucky to find some generous, foolhardy, wealthy people to help us get going. And so we took some angel funding through friends and family, which is on the one hand easier to get than raising from big financial institutions, but it tends to have this reputation of being more emotionally expensive. So we feel, in the right way, very beholden to those people who put in the first funds, who gave us that kind of trust before there's any evidence. But at the same time, they'll get the biggest reward proportionally if it all goes really well. So that's been the shape of the last year for us, is using those funds to take the idea further and see if we can start to make it scale. One of the really strong things we have in the UK is a really strong angel funding community. And it's kind of been identified actually by government analysts that we have great angel funding, and we have a great sort of city funding scene for people who get 3 steps on, but the gap is in the middle. That's where the kind of gap is. But actually right at the early stage, getting ideas, turning them into businesses, or getting existing businesses that are already working and helping them get bigger, we have a great industry for angel funding in the UK. But I think most people who do angel investing are doing it because they like the idea of being able to bring their experience as well as their wealth. The experience of people who put money into small businesses is often more valuable than the cash itself. In the past, for business fundraising, I've used introducers, and typically they get rich people round a table for a lunch and allow people to come and pitch to them. The people who go to lunch clubs and join investment networks and or put money into businesses ad hoc are doing it for a mixture of reasons. They're usually using a very small proportion of their wealth, so they're not kind of seeing it as their pension, go big or go home strategy. So the way we went about it in the past has been to approach introducers who typically take a small fee. Sometimes they convert that fee, if it's payable at the point of investment, into shares themselves. And often they will end up sitting on the board to kind of represent the interests of the external investors. It doesn't mean that they're going to control what happens in the business, although the investment agreement will be quite a scary looking thing for most people raising funding for their own business. It's kind of like, why am I signing this? I quit my job to start my own business. Why am I being beholden to other people? But they want to make sure that you're not going to do something stupid with their money, like bag it up in cash and go to Mexico. So often that's very reasonable. And our vision at Droplet is, or our mission rather, is go big or go home. So we definitely see ourselves as behaving a bit like those Silicon Valley tech startups. What you need to get is all of the stuff that you'd need to raise any investment. If you're raising £10, you kind of need the same thing as if you're raising £100,000. You need the business plan, you need the business model, you need to articulate clearly what you're going to do with the money, where it's going to get you, and why that's a useful place to be. And in our case, we've learnt over the past year what we get out, given what we put in. So we put a certain amount of money into getting new merchants, we know how many we get, and we can kind of project those numbers forwards. That's a really important part of our business modelling. But the single biggest ingredient that we need, and that I think any tech company needs, is a visionary, inspired venture capitalist. And most of them in the world exist in the west coast of the States. There are very, very, very few, like fewer than I have fingers, in the UK. And I'm really pleased to say actually one of them is in Birmingham. And we've been very carefully but wholly backed by one of them, which has been fantastic. Finance Birmingham, they gave us a vote of confidence earlier this year. And our journey since we first released our product up until our first birthday, which is this week, has been to release in Birmingham but also in London and watch a gradual and accelerating increase in people using Droplet to make payments. And the next stage for us is growing our business by getting venture capital investment. And that's a nasty, dark, scary thing to do. We're about halfway there, which is great. Obviously the wrong half, we need to get everybody committed before we get any money for that next stage. And that's like the rocket fuel to help us take what's worked already out to a bigger scale across the UK.